Hi. In this 21st century, across many Western countries, thanks to the consolidation of democracy, the deep rooting of human rights notion, the uninterrupted flow of goods and services, as well as the absence of a global war for more than half a century, have created a great moral split between the present and the past, either the most distant one or just the previous century. As a result, youngsters usually do appreciate the olden days as a time of complete inhumanity, raising questions like, how could Roman citizens enjoy the amphitheater spectacles? Didn't they feel any kind of compassion toward the fighters? Why weren't the Middle Ages church opposed to violence as it is today? Why were our grandfathers commonly beaten by their parents as a way to educate or punish? Let's find out. Every society has its own traits, which can be shared with other neighboring ones. Each of them has the tendency to transform any inherited cultural features thanks to the influence of the previously assimilated attributes and the most immediate environment. Owing to pride, nationalism, or just fear of the unknown, it has become common to label other societies without a familiar way of life as something inferior, usually due to some tradition seen as gruesome or anti-natural. Much has been speculated about the origins of said violent attitudes toward the foreign element, emerging conclusions such as the consequence of surviving in a hostile environment, the influence of next-door warring tribes, religious fanaticism, or the supposed innate brutality of rural societies. Although some of these hypotheses may have some degree of truth, they may also hold biased research lines, lacking any kind of perspective or self-criticism. To sum it up, the vast majority of documented societies from the past, whether European or not, have had an intrinsic level of violence or social tension, which did not appear in a spontaneous way, but through the development of many internal changes. So why? Which could be the main source of intrinsic violence? Well, it's actually a rather simple, but also complicated answer.
Demographics.
At the present day, thanks to the ever-growing liberalization of society, singleness has become one of the many possible lifestyles. But for many thousands of years, and just for the sake of the species' survival, mankind was organized in extended or nuclear families. This primal stage of socialization was the first window to the world for the common children, becoming a phase where they learned to perform long and arduous household duties, and where they had their first contact with perhaps the most gruesome reality from the past. Before modern medicine, it was usual to live through constant outbreaks of multiple infectious diseases, the reason why families were used to having a lot of children, since the probability of losing some of them along the way was very high, especially the younger ones. In our times, the loss of a brother or sister during childhood is considered a tragedy. But just a couple of centuries ago, it was expected that between 1/3 and 1/2 of a family's offspring would not be able to reach adulthood, and that, without counting workplace accidents, childbirth deaths, and the occasional spread of pandemics which could wipe out entire communities in the span of just a few months. Therefore, regardless of the class, order, or social group, children grew up assimilating the concept of death as an essential part of their worldview. However, that doesn't mean kids would eventually become sadistic, bloodthirsty butchers at some point. But death was just another piece in the puzzle of life. Since societies kept evolving and changing, but were all the time carried on by people with a high tolerance or acceptance of death, it's not actually surprising to find out that during the last 4,000 years of known civilization, life never did have the value it treasures today. A reason why cultural habits like the slave trade were wide openly practiced, without much repercussion, until the mid-19th century. Throughout the ages, as a result of the congestion of cities, the advent of liberal uprisings, the two industrial revolutions, the scientific and medical advancements, the birth of the proletariat self-awareness, the traumatic experience of both world wars, the victory of the civil rights movements, and other countless episodes, it gave birth to substantially decreased mortality rates across the West, as well as to improve family, society, and workplace ethics. Over the years, day-to-day life started becoming more comfortable until achieving the present degree of harmony. This new pleasant environment to be raised in has become the essential backbone of our lives, to the point that imagining a society without much security can often be quite a difficult task. So what's your take on the subject? Do you think that this situation will improve even more? Or, on the contrary, has society reached a plateau, and from now on it will only get worse?